A difficult challenge, but it can be so rewarding and full of love. And we have two people that we're calling advocates in our church circle. That is my wife, Amy. She had a work thing come up this morning. She's on call, and so I only have a picture of Amy right here. Yeah. Right there. So there's Amy, and then Donna Kwame. Can you give us the little hand wave? Yeah, there it is. So Amy and Donna are tag teaming, being advocates for all the voices that we can't hear in this room, from kids in the counties that need a place. So Philip also didn't discover he was going to be coming out to our church until probably about like 6:17 a.m. this morning or something like that. And he could tell you more about that. But set your attention span for the last 10 minutes here as he shares the heart and the vision of Foster the Bay.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. As Pastor Dave said, my name is Philip Pattison, and I did find out about a few hours ago, that I got the opportunity to come. The person who was going to be coming is fostering right now, and is fostering a high needs young boy, and something came up, so she's in the ER right now. And so I got the phone call, and so I'm here. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. And again, my name is Philip, and I'm with Foster the Bay, and Foster the Bay is a coalition of churches here in the Bay Area, across all 10. We're moving towards all 10 counties of the Bay Area, working together to provide a loving home for every child in the foster care system. And I want to tell you just a little bit about kind of the heartbeat behind it, as Dave said. And let me just begin, if I could, with just a quick story. Let me tell you about a beautiful little girl. Within hours of this little girl being born, she was placed into the foster care system. And by the time she was 2 months old, she'd already been cared for by 4 different moms. We know, statistically, like the outlook on this little girl's future is pretty bleak, right? She's got a whole world of statistics fighting against her. You guys have explored some of that with some of the videos that you've seen over the last couple of weeks here at GateWay. We know that 71% of girls in the foster care system will be pregnant by the time they're 21. Half will be on the streets half will be unemployed in the mid-20s. A third will be on the streets. Half will have a substance addiction. More than half will have PTSD. In fact, you are twice as likely to have PTSD as a child in foster care than a war veteran. Suicidal tendencies are 4 times higher than that of the average youth for youth in foster care. So I can just keep going with the stats, right? So there's this whole world of stats fighting against this little girl. My wife and I heard about this little girl a few years ago. We just had a lot of conversation and a lot of prayer, and we just said, we aren't God. We can't determine this girl's future, but whatever we could do, we want to help maybe reset the trajectory of this little girl's life. And so about 3 years ago this January, we decided to bring this little girl into our home. And I wish I could tell you her name, and I wish I could tell you some more details about her story, and I wish I could show a picture up here of her face. I can't do that because of privacy laws. But I can just tell you this girl is so full of life and so full of joy. Actually, she's brought so much joy into our home. She's been such a blessing to our family, so much laughter and so many great memories. And we're on track now to move from being her foster family to being her forever family. And yeah, it's awesome. But the thing is, this little girl she's just one of like 7,000 kids in foster care in the Bay Area. 7,000. And every one of these kiddos have a name, and they have a story, and every one of their stories matters to God. And because their stories matter to God, their stories matter to us. Let me tell you about a couple other kids. Let me tell you about a little boy and a little girl. So this is a brother and sister, similar to our little girl. Just after they were born, they were removed from their biological family. In this case, it was because of extreme domestic violence. And so they were actually separated. The little girl went to go live with the family in the city. The little boy went to go to kind of the farmland, lived with the family there. They both grew up, did really, really well. The little girl went actually into politics. The little boy grew up and actually just had a big heart for the world around him and went into the military. And the little boy, I guarantee you've heard of him, he actually went on to become a hero. And he became a hero not because he simply saved his, some fellow soldiers, or even because he saved his country. This little boy became a hero because he went on to save the universe. This happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, if you're not tracking. So, for those of you who aren't still caught up yet, that's Luke and Leia Skywalker. So that's the plot line of Star Wars. My buddy Krish recently told that story in a TED Talk on foster care and adoption. He said, it's really interesting when you think about it, how many of our favorite characters have backstories like that. Like that's their story, right? I was just talking about this with somebody, with Katie here before the service. Spider-Man was adopted by his aunt, right? Superman was adopted. Yep. Batman. I'm not 100% sure the legal ramifications. He was raised by his butler, though. And apparently, like, that's okay, all right? So, do you know James Bond was adopted? I was telling this story the other day, and a guy said 11 from Stranger Things. Yeah, kind of. Elle from Stranger Things was kind of fostered. Right? Guardians of the Galaxy, the kids from Lemony Snicket, the kids from Chronicles of Narnia, right? The Pevensey kids were fostered during the war. Yep. Harry Potter. Yep. That's not a shining example of fostering with the Dursleys, but but Harry Potter was fostered, right? So what's interesting to me is that, like, that's not just, it's like the filmmakers discovered something really important. That kids who have gone through heartbreaking, traumatic experiences, that, kids who are less fortunate, right? Kids who have come from hard places, that they are not without hope for their future. In fact, they have the capacity and the potential to be something great, Amen. To be something incredible. Amen. And what's fascinating to me is that that's not just like the makings of a good plot line or the makings of a good movie. Like, that truth is at the very heart of Christianity. It's what we believe as followers of Jesus, that although things seem to be falling apart and things seem to be broken, that we have hope for our future. There is opportunity because of who and what Jesus has done, that we have opportunity for healing and wholeness. Amen. And that's not only been, because that's true about our God, that's been true about God's people. That for the last 2,000 years, God's people have, just as Pastor said so well over the last 20 minutes, like we've entered into places of brokenness and injustice and brought healing and wholeness time and time and time and time again for the last 2,000 years. In fact, did you know that the first known hospital in every nation across the globe was started by the church? If you look at prison reform, education reform, women's rights, the abolition of slavery, civil rights, they all trace their roots back to God's people. The same is true with adoption and foster care. There are written accounts of an old Roman practice how when a child would be born into a family, the child would be placed down at the feet of its father. And if the father symbolically stooped down and picked up the kid into his arms, the child was said to have been legitimized and welcomed into the family. But sometimes the father, for whatever reason, didn't pick up the child. It could have been like in China, where maybe it wasn't the preferred gender of the day. Maybe the child looked sick or frail. But if the father didn't stoop down and pick up the child, instead what would happen is it would take the kid outside of the city to a designated place where it would be left alone to die. They called it infant exposure. It was a common, acceptable practice. But you see, followers of Jesus understood that these kids mattered to God. And so they would go out to these places on a regular basis, and they would rescue these children, and they bring them into their own homes, and they would raise them up as their own beloved sons and daughters. And it was the Christians that put pressure on the Roman government to outlaw that practice. So what I'm stoked about today is that, yes, this is our history, this is our legacy as God's people, but this isn't just our legacy, this is also our present. We have the opportunity today to carry on that same torch in our generation, in the Bay Area. This is the Bay Area, right? We consider Santa Cruz County the Bay Area. So the greater Bay Area. Thank you. A few years ago, my wife and I, we started fostering. It's been 5 years now that we've been fostering. And I was pastoring a church called Twin Oaks Church in San Jose. And we invited our church to get engaged with us. We said, hey, let's care for what we believe to be the most vulnerable population in the Bay Area. Foster kids and their families. And some Bay Area social workers heard about it. And we said, this is great. We know about what your church is doing. We know what other churches are doing. There's some handful of churches around the Bay Area that are doing similar things. They said, what if together you guys started a faith alliance of churches? What if you got together? They said, we're in a crisis right now. We have more kids entering into foster care than we have homes that are ready for them. Would the churches come together, create a faith alliance, they called it, and help us meet this crisis? And so 4 years ago this month, we started Foster the Bay. And we went from one church in South San Jose of about 100 people to now 94 churches up and down the Bay Area that are working together to raise up foster homes and then support for those foster homes. And I'm so glad to be here to be able to invite you in to be a part of that. This next Saturday, we're going to be having an interest meeting right here at GateWay Bible where you can learn about some roles you can play. You can learn about what it would actually look like for you to open up your home to a child in foster care. But not everybody can do that. Most of you can't do that. Most of you shouldn't do that. But there is a role for you to play. One of the reasons why there's so few foster homes is because retention is so low for foster parents. Within a year, 60% of foster families will have dropped out because it's difficult. Kids who've come from hard places sometimes will, in their pain and confusion, will sometimes act out of that. And it's hard sometimes. We've experienced that. Or it's hard sometimes when they come into your home and you fall in love with them. And they're with you for a year or 2 years, and they become like a son or a daughter to you. And then they go back home, or they the county brings them somewhere else, and you never see them again, and it rips your heart out. We've been through that too. It's terrible. It's hard. But you know what changes retention for foster families? Is if they have a support team around them, if they take that journey within the context of community. So we're also looking for support teams that would babysit and bring meals and encourage them. We have a support friend, my wife and I, that sends a cleaner to our house once a month. That alone is a reason to come to an info meeting on Saturday. Okay, so right. So here's the deal. I'm over my time. I want to invite you to come and join us this Saturday just to learn a little bit more. Learn about what it would look like to foster, what it would look like to support a family that's fostered. Just come and learn how to pray about it. So if you're interested, come out to the back table, hang out with Donna or Amy or myself, and you can fill out this next step card. If you do, just let us know what time to drop off your foster kid to your house this afternoon. I'm kidding. If you fill this out, all we're going to do is we're going to email you, okay? We're just going to email you a link where you can RSVP for the meeting this Saturday, okay? We'll also share with you some other meetings that are coming up if you can't make this Saturday, okay? Thank you again for letting me share a bit. Thank you, Donna, and to Amy, who's not here, but for your guys' leadership in this as well. Appreciate it.